Jesus. Not off to the greatest start. I got to turn the lights on. Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday. And Donald Trump is still working for you, you ungrateful shits. Was supposed to be the title of this episode. I don't know what happened to the, I don't know how that, I'm sure I made a mistake. So how you doing this morning, Cameron?
Oh, I'm good. I've been up since about 3:45. Already done some work.
Oh, let's see if... Okay, Krista says there's a bunch of folks still over in that chat.
I hope not. They'll be awfully disappointed. Oh, look, we have a Danny. Well...
Hi, Danny. Yeah, it's...
It could be worse. At least we've got women in the chat.
Yeah. So... God, that just screws up my whole thought process first thing in the morning when that breaks. I don't know why it happens. Because it doesn't always. Anyway.
Oh, well. Anyway.
So, despite the events of the 6th and the utter betrayal and cowardice and surrender of the Republican Party since the events of the 6th, Donald Trump is still working for you guys. And, I mean, even with all that going on... Oh, what's this? Saudi Arabia to end feud with Qatar in Kushner brokered deal. Qatar affirms international efforts for sustainable peace. So even as everybody's throwing them under the bus and setting their MAGA hats on fire and just generally jumping ship like a bunch of infected rats, the president, oh, look at that. He went to the border wall to talk about, hey, we've passed 400 miles of border wall. So, Krista says the title got you a commie election notice on the other one. Damn, I'll have to change the title of this, of the test thing to make sure we get that commie election notice put in place.
That badge of courage.
You know, it might be worthwhile before the commie election notice goes away to just do a live stream where all we do is sit here and search YouTube for stories about Russiagate and see if any of them have the commie election notice on them.
That would be funny.
So
you mean while we still have a YouTube channel?
Yeah. Yeah, and that is also a work in progress. I'm looking at alternatives. One of which is Dailymotion, because they have a good embedded player. And once I have that hooked up through Restream, then the live show will be embedded on brushfiremind.com, whether or not we're still on YouTube. We'll keep doing it there. That might not be, we might not get the reach out of that, but it'll be a start. And speaking of which, as long as we are still on YouTube, Facebook, anywhere, whenever this show goes live, do us a favor, hit that like button, leave a comment, and don't just leave comments in the live chat. We love having you guys in the live chat, but help me feed the algorithm. Leave a comment. Call me an asshole. I don't care. Just leave a comment, especially if it's a comment that I can reply to, that can start a bit of a thread of conversation, and make sure you share it, because the more eyeballs we get on it now, the more people we can move forward, as you know, for when we get kicked off, for when we do get actually actually banned, because I'm sure. I mean, let's be real. We're a small enough channel that the ban hammer isn't actively seeking a reason to get rid of us. But at the same time, we've had videos straight removed just because of just because of the content in them. One of them, we talked about that ridiculous video that the Democrats put out before the election, where they were all naked and trying to explain to you how to vote absentee, or not even absentee. They were explaining the clearly unlawful mail-in votes. And since they were doing that, we did a video where we made fun of just how ridiculous it was that these celebrities all got naked to beg for your vote and to demand that you vote for Joe Biden. And it was especially funny at the time because there had just been a YouTuber who was arrested because she put out a deal where if you sent her a photograph or a photocopy of your mail-in ballot proving that you had voted for Joe Biden, she would send you nude photos. And oh wait, can't do that. You can't pay people to vote a certain way. And yeah, she got her channel canceled and she got arrested. Whoops. In that video, the thumbnail was the freeze frame of Sarah Silverman, covering herself. You couldn't see anything except the fact that she was nude and covering herself. And we made some jokes about how the best part of that video is Sarah Silverman, as trash a human as she is, has a decent rack. And it was all tongue-in-cheek, good fun, gags, jokes. But that got axed. And honestly, given the fact that there were literally thousands of other videos about that video, which included basically the same still frame grab from the video that we were talking about with the nude celebrities. It was the grab of Sarah Silverman holding herself. I don't think we got axed because of that. I think we got axed because I had the gall to suggest that trying to influence the vote with sex is not okay. But yeah, so as long as we're still live, as long as we've still got a show on YouTube, anything you guys can do to share it from YouTube, share it from Facebook, share it to anywhere except apparently Parler.
Whoops.
And I'll keep messaging that we're moving toward using either locals.com or brushfiremind.com. There are a couple of roadblocks on that for the moment, but we're getting there.
Anywho, okay. Lindsay said something in the chat about the Insurrection Act. I got to be honest. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Did you just get caught up on the chat?
So Luska said, "Man, I should have thought about influencing the vote with sex." Ooh, ooh, I could just see Zaluska the Slav standing on the corner in downtown Atlanta in a miniskirt with a big sign that says "Boning for Biden."
If Zaluska wore a skirt, there'd be no way it was Minnie. I've met the guy. That's a big fella right there.
His jacket size is GP medium. For the civilians in the audience, that's a 40-man army tent.
But no, look, the whole thing with the Insurrection Act, and he's going to retain power and finish flushing the swamp clean and prove that he was the legitimately elected president. That's not going to happen. I mean, I'll go so far as to say that that's dictatorial level stuff. It's just, man, no. I think that's misinformation at best. and it could very well be bad actors trying to sow more discord.
Yeah, I don't. The language that's being used in those posts, I saw one of them yesterday, and it said, it didn't say who did it, it didn't say what the purpose was. The line just said something like, "Take heart, the Insurrection Act has been signed." Okay, the Insurrection Act is an over 100-year-old law, which was signed into law over 100 years ago. To say that the Insurrection Act has been signed, and to take that as meaning that some action has been taken which will result in Trump staying in office or Biden being removed or anything like that, that just shows a fundamental misunderstanding of what the Insurrection Act is. The Insurrection Act gives the president the authority to use military forces in certain very limited circumstances. Like, for example, if you have a large number of people flying a unified flag and wearing uniforms to suggest that they're mutually involved, and you have clear evidence that they're communicating on open channels about specific dangerous activities deleterious to the infrastructure and security of the United States, like, for example, burning down several buildings, then you would be authorized as the president to use the military to suppress that insurrection, if in fact you had what is there under those circumstances defined as insurrection within the confines of the Insurrection Act. To simply remove a politician from office or to continuously install one is not a function of the Insurrection Act. There are functions of other laws and emergency powers type of stuff that could have come into play there that are not making the argument. They exist and would extend to those parameters, but to make that argument is also a fundamental misunderstanding of what emergency powers require. So that's one that you can just go ahead and push off to the side and say, yeah, you're a nut job.
Yeah, I mean that's what like 10-horn North African dictators do. That's just not going to happen here. It's just not.
Now, and you know, Alex McDonald's down there says the good thing is that the morons sharing it are exposing themselves as ones that would support a dictator. I don't actually disagree with you, Alex, but let me say this kind of lukewarm in their defense. I can see a place where the incoming administration is so clearly illegitimate that the emergency powers, which from one perspective look like the actions of a dictator, are reasonably and arguably the actions of a patriot trying to stop a dictator before it's too late to stop him. There is an argument to be made that once the dictator is installed, it becomes very difficult to unseat that dictator. And again, I don't actually disagree with the statement that you just made, Alex, as far as exposing the shitheads for the ones that would support the dictator. Only to say that there is in fact another side to the argument, even if it's weak in this explicit set of circumstances.
So Krista says she'd take dictator Trump over Kamala. I think Kamala's ability to receive dictation is part of why she's about to be president.
You keep using that word. I don't think it means what Kamala thinks it means. And real quick, let me just say good morning to this. This is another day in a row that we have a pretty good collection in the audience here. Got a good good chunk of people watching on Facebook and YouTube. And I'm thrilled to see it. So let me just say good morning to some people. I see Joe Macarena was in the comments this morning. Mac has been watching the show off and on since not quite the beginning, but pretty far back. Steve, of course, is one of the crew. As recently added to is Zaluska the Slav. I already mentioned you, Alex, but good morning, sunshine, and of course, our ladies, Krista, Lindsay, and Danielle are with us, and we love you. We love you. I see Drew back there. I think I saw Drew back there somewhere, but he hadn't said anything for a while.
Yep.
But I think, there he is. Yep, Drew's with us too. Good morning, sunshine. Zaluska.exe. Is that an explosive memory wipe command structure? Yep, Steve says plank owner, baby. Damn Skippy.
Yep, OG Brushfire Mind right there.
OG.
So no, the insurrection thing. It's just, I mean, it's kind of pie in the sky stuff, and I understand the point that you're making. That the people that are sharing it, feel like basically Donald Trump didn't win. It wouldn't be illegitimate for him to do what he was doing, for him to use the power to, somehow force himself in and prove that he was the winner. The problem is the rule of law has to be applied evenly. Now, granted, the hypocrisy in the system is just massive. But, I mean, once we start fucking around with that kind of thing, like who the president of the United States is going to be because somebody can sign a piece of paper, just no, we don't want to walk that road. We do not want to do it, and not at all.
Let's take a moment and understand what insurrection, sedition, things like this are. And I'll draw the comparison between the Capitol Hill protests and the BLM riots, and that is a correct distinction. One was a protest that had a few bad actors. The other was riots. And one of the major distinctions with the riots is they happened in hundreds of cities and did billions of dollars of property damage, claimed dozens of lives, civilian and law enforcement. And unlike the Capitol Hill protest, which, you know what, they kept saying mostly peaceful, and I will stand the Capitol Hill protest up against the Black Lives Matter protests on that mostly peaceful standard any day of the week, right? But in the Capitol Hill protest, unlike the BLM riots where people were being murdered and buildings were being burned down by avowed activists associated with the organizations, in the Capitol Hill protest, instead, the police defaulted to deadly force. And the more I hear about that, the more I see about that, the more I've watched that video of Ashley Babbitt being killed by that cop. And now that we know that one of the other three people who died of unspecified medical emergencies was, shoved off the balcony by another police officer. I stand even more aggressively by my position that they just chose to default to deadly force. And so that takes to your double standards. But let's get to the question of the insurrection situation. The press keeps calling the January 6th protest an insurrection, a coup, and this, that, and the other thing. Here's the distinction. The people that went to protest on Capitol Hill, okay, you're talking about a crime, an accusation of crime when you say insurrection. An element of crime is always intent. The intent of the people that went to protest on that day, and you can make the argument that they're wrong about the facts, that they're mistaken about what the facts are, but that does not change what they believe. And that has an effect on the question of their motive, a question of their intent for the purposes of alleging a crime. What those people believe is that the election was stolen, and that what they are doing is being patriots and attempting to defend the legitimate government against an illegitimate usurper. That is the thing that they believe. What they do not believe is that they are there to overthrow the legitimate government in support of an illegitimate government which they prefer. Right? So to call it an insurrection, you are making a mistake of category. It is completely... The claim is not defensible. These people did not go to conduct an insurrection. They went believing that they were standing up for democracy in their vote. Whether or not they're right is irrelevant to the question of what defines the intent for the purposes of that crime. And here's the major distinction between that and BLM. The BLM and Antifa riots that we saw rage all last year, which were actively supported, encouraged, called for, and directly funded by the current president and vice president-elect, who raised money for these people, who encouraged them to do the things that they did, who encouraged them to continue to do violence. Those people, the BLM activists, the Antifa activists, their stated objective is to overturn the United States government. So,
oh, Lindsay. Oh.
now you broke my concentration there. But that's a major distinction. The intent and objective of BLM, and we don't have to take this, we don't have to try and withdraw this from context or mind read to do this, because they were kind enough to give us a website with a manifesto where they have their stated objectives. And their stated objectives were, among others, to destroy capitalism, the United States government, and the nuclear family. So, to say that the Capitol Hill protesters was an insurrection is not a mistake. It's a falsehood. To say that the BLM rioters were anything other than an insurrection is similarly a mistake of category. That is incorrect by definition. They explicitly stated that their intent was to overthrow. So this isn't complicated. The Insurrection Act would have been an appropriate measure to use against BLM and Antifa. The same cannot be said within the confines of the law and the definitions of the Capitol Hill protesters.
Yeah. And despite all that, Donald Trump is still your president. Hey, real quick, and I know we're at the very end here, but I just want to mention it. I have to give Nancy Pelosi some credit. Bitch sobered up long enough to, play for all the fucking marbles here. Basically giving Mike Pence an ultimatum to invoke the 25th Amendment to get Trump thrown out. Golly. I mean, she's not just trying to take out Trump. She's trying to take out Mike Pence as well. Because, I mean, what does he do? Does he say, yes, I'm going to invoke the 25th Amendment and destroy his political career?
Yeah,
or does he say, no,
do
I refuse to invoke the 25th Amendment and destroy his political career? That's... Got to give the bitch credit. That's a good move.
Yes. One thing that you can say for Democrats that I wish you could say for Republicans is they will get your back no matter how wrong you are. They'll at least try to help you. But if you're relying on the GOP, they don't even care if you're right. It only matters if you're convenient.
Yeah, that whole narrative from the people that believe in the patriarchy that's basically man bad, woman weak. Well, it's funny because in the political sense, it's Democrat bad, Republican weak.
It is.
Only that's actually reality.
Well, and that's... God, I've been saying that since I was a teenager. that the Democrats are bad, that the Democrats are not an option because they're bad, they're evil. And unfortunately, the alternative is the Republican Party, which is weak. And I'm afraid that we're in a place right now, like, it's been very difficult to try and get a sufficiently, to get a third party up there with the two parties. It's been very difficult to get a third party moving. And
God, I just want to touch Krista's comment real quick. I love hearing women say this because I'm starting to see it more and more. The joke about we've suffered enough. I'm a woman and I say repeal the 19th.
yes. And, you know, honestly, I would not do away with the 19th. We've talked about this 1,000 times on this show. If I had my way, I would revoke everyone's citizenship and make them reapply for it.
Yeah, Starship Troopers might have been satire, but it had some interesting points that were very well made in it.
Yeah, and I didn't even necessarily mean to reference Starship Troopers, but I'm glad you mentioned it because I would also absolutely take the parents of juvenile delinquents into the public square and flog them before an audience. Oh, your kid decided that it would be fun and funny and entertaining to engage in a little recreational felony over the weekend? You don't need all that skin on your back. Or any of it.
But yeah, Donald Trump is still your president, and even now, he's still working for you. Though, at this point, the strategy that he's engaged in, where he's trying to remain invisible, is probably the wisest course of action. There are some that say he should come out and he should, do the thing and be presidential, and I condemn the violence and blah, 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 blah. But you know what? To hell with all that. Donald Trump has condemned white supremacy, like, literally dozens of times, even going all the way back to, like, when did he leave the Constitutional Party? Like in the 90s when David Duke joined? And none of that's been enough. So if he comes out now and tries to say the right thing, so, yeah, it doesn't matter. But anyhow, I'm showing 8:01 on my clock.
Okay, well, we're going to put a pin in it this morning, and we will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow's Wednesday. I'll be here tomorrow. We'll see, and I'll see you then, and I'll talk to Cameron offline in just a second.